fellow tamers and Digitestin, it's Mike aka Sanaku from Overground, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over episode 3 of the Rainbow series, and while last episode had a bit of a splash of purple, this time we're going heavy-handed into the color purple itself. So, the Rainbow series, if you're unfamiliar, every time a new set drops, a core set releases, in this case BT6, we build one deck rooted in every color to kind of get us started in the format, get our first draft sorted, get kind of the juices flowing, and from there we go ahead and we build upon those decks. We've covered blue, which was Hexablau with Zulangmon. We've covered yellow, which was the yellow Mastamon. And in this episode, we're going to be going over the color purple, which is going to be a Titamon deck featuring Lilithmon. Lilithmon's kind of here more as a support, but she's not the main focus. Now, Lilithmon loops are kind of all the rage right now when it comes to a lot of purple decks, but I personally really like Titamon, and I kind of like the theory that he brings to the deck. And so this is kind of my take on a kind of a tempo mid-range version of Titamon that's not necessarily wholly OTK aggro, but not necessarily full control either. It kind of falls somewhere right in the middle. It kind of switches gears depending on what you need it to do. So yeah, it's Titamon kind of introduced this whole well, purple already had like a discard from hand mechanic because you had a lot of cycle cards with like Marimon or something like the old BT1 purple, BT2, sorry, BT2 Gabumon. But now Titamon and kind of the cards associated with them kind of take that strategy to the next level and now actually give you benefits for discarding cards. And I'll kind of explain what that means as we go through the card by card. So let's go ahead and talk about the deck as a whole, and then I'll kind of talk about my individual choices in terms of building this deck and kind of what the overall theory is behind the deck with... yeah, let's just get into it. That's fine. So, we'll start with the babies as always. We've got 4 copies of the starter deck Sunomon now, and it's once per turn when we trash a card from our hand through one of our effects, we actually get to trigger draw one. So that actually greatly increases our consistency, and a Digimon doesn't have to be deleted in order to start digging through our decks and hitting our combo pieces. Now we just have to discard a card, and there's so many ways in this deck that helps us just kind of generate that outlet immediately. And to complement that, we are playing the last copy of Marimon, which, as you're all familiar with, when the Digimon that this inheritable is attached to is destroyed, we get to draw 1, discard 1. So let's go on and talk about the rookies. So we're playing 4 copies of Labramon. Labramon on play, draw 1, discard 1. 4 copies of the starter deck Gabumon. This is the one where when attacking you get to draw 1, discard 1. 2 copies of Gazimon, again the memory denier. You can only get memory through tamers. 2 copies of Tapirmon, and then 1 copy of the new BT6 Impmon. So let's talk about why everyone is here. Labramon is here because it immediately lets us discard a card, which unlocks a lot of our effects, as we'll talk about as we go through the rest of the deck. Gabumon, same thing. It's an immediate way to just get us to discard a card while also increasing our consistency because we get to draw 1 and dig 1 deeper into our deck. Same thing with Labramon. So both these are up 4 specifically because it helps us dig deeper to get to our specific combo pieces. It digs us deeper to get into the combo pieces that we want to put into the grave, and it also helps us discard cards to trigger all of our discard effect bonuses. Gazimon is here, it's a given. It's just something we can constantly revive to keep our opponent off memory. Tapirmon is here specifically to play against something like 3 Musketeers, because there's a lot of decks in the format that kind of deal with low DP Digimon, something like Ultimate Flare, then you've got Happy Fly Bullet, stuff like that. Even Genkumon destroys things with the lowest... not DP, sorry, play cost rather. But sorry, it gives us so that if our Digimon is deleted because of those low play cost effects, we can still get value out of them. So by keeping a Tapirmon up front and our opponent deals with it through some sort of removal just to clear our board because we might be going too wide, we still get to draw out of it and potentially draw into a better way to, counter the counter type thing. So Tapirmon's kind of here as a weird kind of big brain play to just kind of help us get out of situations in which our opponent may have an opportunity to set us back even further. And then finally, the 1 copy of Impmon. This is Impmon where we can trash a card from our hand to return a Digimon with 7 Great Demon Lords or a 3 Musketeers card from our trash back to our hand. Impmon does one of 2 things. First of all, he lets us trash a card from our hand, which will unlock the potential of the deck as we'll discuss later. And second of all, he helps us recycle our Lilithmons. And because we have so many ways to keep reviving Digimon back from the trash, Impmon basically gives us an infinite supply of Lilithmons, which is why we can afford to play her in smaller copies, because she's not the main focus of the deck. She's just there to kind of help tie everything together. They're going to move on to the champions, and this is a much different champion lineup than what we've kind of come to expect and come to experience in Purple as a whole. Now, we're not playing any of the old Purple staples. It's a brand new set of level 4s. Literally every single level 4 in this deck is entirely from BT6. So introducing the Ginkakumon and Kinkakumon package. If you haven't seen it yet or you haven't heard from it yet, well, strap in because we're going to go over it real quick. So Ginkakumon here says that the inheritable, if you trash a card from your hand, you get to gain 1 memory. And then Kinkakumon is, when attacking, you can trash a card from your hand to delete one of your opponent's level 3 Digimon. And Ginkakumon Promote kind of ties everything together. He says that on play, we can place a Kinkakumon and or Ginkakumon from our trash under him. And if we place 2 cards with any of those names, we can draw 1 and gain 1 memory. And Ginkakumon Promote actually has Rush. So if this were to come back through any revival card, it can automatically attack the same turn it's played. It basically gives Purple kind of their own version of something like a Bushiagumon. And then to complement that, we're going to be playing one copy of the new BT6 Ogremon. And Ogremon reads that on play, we can trash one card from our hand to delete one of our opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. And that's very powerful because it just helps us take out something like a blocker, for example, or just take out anything that could be potentially, presenting lethal, or, if our opponent's going wide or anything like that, or if our opponent's trying to build up a stack in the battle area as well. And because we can bring him back through other revival ways, and throw many of the revival cards in this deck do not stop on play effects, which was kind of a big deal with previous purple cards, it allows us to kind of play more of a toolbox approach to purple, because the cards that we can bring back will always get their effect, and we can kind of generate advantage through that way as well. Which is why something like Inkakumon Promote is also very powerful, because we can revive it for free and then get more advantage out of it by putting more sources underneath, for example. Then we're going to go into our ultimates. There is an argument for Black War Growlmon. Right now, I just cannot find the space. My big reason why I do and don't want to play Black War Growlmon is because I feel like there are very strong inheritables this format, so you don't necessarily want to get rid of those. However, at the same time, you also want to set up your trash to revive things later, so Black War Growlmon does accelerate that as well. But in the meantime, we're just playing 4 Lady Devimon and 3 Rebellymon. Lady Devimon is here in this deck because it allows us to accelerate through our deck through draws, while also being a discard outlet to trigger other things, and her inheritable is very powerful as well, where if we activate an option, we get to destroy a level 3 Digimon. And we're playing quite an eclectic suite of options that helps us make sure that we can keep our opponent's lineup in check. We're actually not playing any blockers at all, and that's where kind of Rebellymon comes into play. Rebellymon on Digivolution, we can discard a card, which will again trigger everything, but it grants him a blocker and retaliation. So if we can stick a Rebellymon on board, it actually treats us as an insurance policy. The Rebellymon also just puts other random matchups in check, like maybe opposing Titamons, for example, other big threats that could, potentially just be threatening a lot of big damage. And then if your Rebellymon managed to survive, you can evolve it into a Mega on the next turn, and just keep extending your combos from there. And speaking of our megas, we've got 6 total. We've got 4 copies of the new boy Titamon. So Titamon, let's talk about him and how he kind of brings everything together. So when we Digivolve into Titamon, he costs 4, by the way, but that can get mitigated by your Ginkakumons. We trash one card from our hand, then we get to play one purple level 4 or lower Digimon from our trash without paying its cost. So you immediately discard a card to revive any level 4 or lower. So this means that your Ginkakumon's promotes can automatically be on live. You can bring back Ogremon to deal with the threat. You can bring back a Ginkakumon if you want to evolve over it to take something out later on as well. You can bring back any of your rookies that depend on the situation. You can bring back Gazimon for playing against a deck that needs a certain amount of memory to continue to proceed. You can bring back Immon if you want to bring a Lilithmon back, for example. I just dropped her. You can bring back Labramon if you want to dig a little bit deeper. Again, you can bring back Gabumon as well if you want to dig a little bit deeper by evolving over top of it. You can bring back Tapirmon if you want to set up an insurance policy against something like Happy Bullet Showering. You can, I get that. That's everyone. Yeah. Okay, we covered the whole gauntlet. So yeah, that's what Titamon does. And the cool thing with Titamon 2 is that you can discard the same card that you're going to revive. So you could, if you have multiple copies of Ginkakumon engraved, but you have a Ginkakumon Promote in your hand, you can discard the Promote, bring back the Promote, put the 2 sources underneath. You're going to gain an additional memory, and then now you have an extra body with Rush that you're able to bring back off the Digivolution. And Titamon's other effect is that once per turn, when you discard a card from your hand using one of your effects, he gains security attack +1 and plus 2,000, which means he's going to go up to 14,000 and he checks 2 securities. And this is very powerful because if you have a Titamon on the board that sticks, any of your other discard effects that you can play during any of your turn following will always give him that extra security attack +1. So you're always kind of in a very good aggressive position if you can manage to get your Titamon to stick. And then to complement the Titamon, we're playing 2 copies of Lilithmon. And Lilithmon is primarily here to loop the small kind of purple option suite that we're playing to kind of increase our consistency as well as constantly cycle through the remainder of our deck. And we'll talk about the purple options as soon as we get there. But Lilithmon is also a very powerful mega in her own right, and she's another mega that we need to step into in order to accelerate our ability to get into Omnimon Zwart, which is the next Digimon we're going to talk about. So level 7, we're playing 3 Omnimon Zwarts. This is complemented by the fact that we're playing 2 Mega Digimon Fusion, and we're playing 3 Manoa, which we'll talk about very shortly. So yeah, Omnimon Zwart, on Digivolve, we get to mill the top 3 cards of our deck, and then we can bring back 2 level 4 or lower purple or black. And if we can manage to evolve into Zwart without ending our turn, now purple has a very strong play where we can actually bring back 2 Ginkakumon Promotes and have 3 Digimon to attack immediately within the same turn, because 2 of them will have Rush. Normally with Zwart, you'd want to bring back something like 2 blockers, or you'd want to bring back another ultimate or something to set up another stack for the next turn, which is something that you can do. Zwart just has a lot more flexibility now because you have more ways to end the game a little bit faster with your Mega Digimon fusions. Instead of using it as a board setup, you can now use it as a game ender. So yeah, let's talk about the Mega Digimon Fusion and Manoa real quick. Manoa, I'm not sure if Manoa is actually 100% correct for this deck. And if she is, I don't know if she's correct at 3. But I am playing her at 3 right now because worst case scenario, if I can get one into play and the other 2 are dead in my hand, they become immediate discard fodder for any of my draw discard cards. And that way I don't have to worry about, painstakingly choosing a target of what I want to actually pitch. The Manoa is just a dead card I can immediately get rid of. But Manoa is a memory setter that puts me to 3 that's also a white tamer. So she's kind of the best of both worlds in the sense that she combines the need to play Takumi while also also the need to playing like a purple mat, and she kind of mixes them into one single card. And while this does give me Mega Digimon Fusion access while constantly setting me to 3, she herself is just completely redundant because we're not playing any Eosmons in the deck, so we're not ever going to get any full value out of her. But just based on what she does and what she exists to be, for now, I think she's correct, but there are opportunities to explore, maybe going back to something like Takumi, maybe going even back to something like Matt and Tai, because with Titamon, when he evolves and he uses effect, he'll gain security attack +1, but it applies to this Digimon. So if you Mega Digimon Fusion on top of that and then turn him into a Zwart, the Zwart will still have security attack +1. And if you're playing something like Matt and Tai, who gives all your Omnimon security attack +1 already, that means you'll Mega Digimon Fusion into a Zwart that has security attack +2. And then that's other reason to want to play something like Blackboard Ramon, because now you'll have a Zwart that can have security attack +2 that can swing twice. But I feel like that requires a complete overhaul of the deck, and it's not based around the theory and kind of which I'm trying to discuss today. So maybe in a future video of BT6, we can explore that version of the deck, but for now, this is kind of the purple deck we've settled on for now. And yeah, Mega Digimon Fusion just lets us get into our Zwart for free, but we need a white card in play in order to accelerate that ability, which is why we have to play the white Tamers, which is why we've circled around to Manoa, and now that thoughts come full circle. And now let's talk about the purple options that we're playing in order to complement our Lilith as well as just the overall consistency of the deck as well. So we're playing 2 copies of Jack Reed. This is because due to the fact that we're going to be, milling and cycling through our deck and discarding a lot, we can get our grave to 10 very quickly, so this lets us kind of gain a bit more memory. This is also really good in our security against something like Bond decks and Jesmon decks, and any aggro deck in general, because it acts as the Hammer Spark in security, so we actually gain 2 memory and it forces our opponent to end their turn. We're also playing 1 Fly Bullet. This is here to deal with primarily Jesmon, or any other big Digimon that our opponent sticks. It's just an instant form of removal that we can just get rid of anything that's bothering us, because we delete 1 level 6 or lower Digimon. And with Lilithmon, we can theoretically just loop this back to our hand and use it whenever we need it, given the circumstances. We're playing 1 copy of Underworld's Call. Underworld's Call is a very interesting card that came out in BT6, and I'd like to make space for more, but right now I think 1 is fine for now. And Underworld's Call is, when we discard it for a card effect, we actually have to draw 1. So if we discard it through any of our effects that we've talked about earlier on in the deck, this actually gives us an additional kind of Upstart Goblin effect where we can just dig a little bit deeper into our deck. But furthermore, the reason we're playing it is because it's a Night Raid on steroids. It costs 4, but we can bring back a purple level 4 or lower from our trash, and we get to trigger its on-play abilities. So again, and that's something like our Ogremon or Ginkakumon promotes, any of our rookies here that, we might need to generate any advantage from. And so this just kind of helps us. It's kind of a cool toolbox option that kind of gets us whatever we need in certain situations. And we're only playing the 1 because, again, we can recycle it with Lilithmon, and we can recycle Lilithmon with Impmon, so we kind of have a kind of infinite stream of opportunities to see this card. And then finally, for our options, we're playing 2 copies of the Purple Memory Boost. This is to kind of increase our overall consistency. We're playing a little bit less copies of what you would see in a standard, evolution lineup. We're only playing 13 rookies, only 10 champions, only 7 ultimates for our 6 megas. And what Purple Memory Boost does is that it helps us kind of fill in the gaps. So whatever we're missing level-wise, we can look at the top 4 cards of our deck, add a purple Digimon that may be missing to kind of complete the puzzle, add that to our hand. Or on top of that, it can just add any, combo piece that we might want to look for the future as well. And then again, we've got the very powerful delay mechanic where we can sacrifice it later on in the game to gain 2 memory and help us extend our plays a little bit further. So yeah, that is it for the purple episode of the Rainbow series. If you guys had any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comments section below. If you like what we do at Overground, please feel free or feel, inclined to give us a subscription. So thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone.